So I've been teaching for coming up to 22 years now. I went into teaching because I loved my subject, and it was a great way of passing that love on to students. And I just really enjoyed working with young people. It was always lovely, even at school. I used to take part in open evenings, and explaining how things worked and the impact of those was always something that was very enjoyable. And I think with history it's important to keep that alive and to keep the subject going more now than ever when we're looking at what's happening in the modern world. And so therefore we don't just talk about history in our lessons, we do end up talking about modern politics and things that are happening in the news at the moment. Students will cover Britain 1918 to 1997, so the 20th century in not a huge amount of detail as it's a breadth topic, but rather gaining an understanding of how Britain changed after 2 world wars and then the social and political cultural upheavals that took place in the 50s, the 60s and the 70s. So they'll look at events like the setting up of the NHS, the changing role of women in society, from how they went from having the vote and the changing attitudes towards women in the world of work and society. And there'll be a special focus on Margaret Thatcher's governments, which is always a juicy, controversial topic to get into, looking at the impact that she had. For their second paper, they'll look at USA 1955 to 1992. So again, a really important era in American history in the 20th century. So not just looking at politics, but looking at racial issues with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and then looking at cultural phenomenon like the creation of the teenager and teenage culture and music right the way through to the late 80s, with the influence of MTV on society, as well as the impact of the AIDS crisis and the upshot from that. For paper 3, students will be asked to make a choice at the end of their first year. So in May of year 1, you'll be asked whether you'd like to do Tudor rebellions, so looking at the rebellions and disorder under the Tudor monarchs, or to stick with political history and do politics, agitation and reform in the 19th century in Britain, and looking at the impact of protest movements such as the suffragettes and the Chartists. There'll be 3 papers, so 3 exam papers, plus students will do coursework, which can be on a topic of their choice, as long as it's an area of controversy. So for example, a lot of students like to do the Holocaust and who should bear responsibility for the Holocaust, or other topics have included looking at the role of the Bolsheviks in the Russian Revolution and the justification for the bombings during World War II. We've run guest speakers from universities all online at the moment because of COVID, but we've had lecturers from the University of Gloucestershire and places like that who've given us lectures within the class. We also have a history society that runs fortnightly, where students present a short lecture on a topic of their choice, something that's not connected to what we do in class, but something that they feel strongly about. And we have a Q&A session. It's just nice to sit and talk about history in a safe environment. Students, we've had a few that have gone on to do history. Someone has gone to Manchester, somebody else has gone to Edinburgh. And we've had students that have gone on to do something and history. So there's been a number that have gone to do English and history, geography, like doing joint honours. And we've had a number that have gone on to do degrees like law, psychology, and history has been a great help to them in teaching them the essay skills and the research and analytical skills that they need to get onto those courses. We're hoping that we can run more trips. There's an opportunity on this paper to go to London, to go to the House of Parliament, and hopefully, all being well, there could be the opportunity to go to Washington as part of the USA part of the paper. So it would be lovely to get that trip in. This pathway would, I think, appeal to students who've got an interest in modern history. It's a very modern paper. I would say that it's not history because an awful lot has happened in my lifetime, but it's interesting and it's important. So students who are doing maybe politics, this would be a really good overlap with the politics A-level. both for the Britain and the American side of the politics A level. Students who perhaps look at international affairs as part of sociology or human geography would also find this useful. Your average history student is someone who takes an interest in the world, someone who has got a drive and a creativity to go out and find out more about subjects and to ask the questions that need to be asked so they can drill into why things happened. So it's not just about what happened, it's about the where, the why and the how, and going out and seeking to explore those and ask the questions that need to be asked.